Danny DeKeyser is a strange player when you look back on his career. He's from Detroit, Michigan. He played his college hockey at Western Michigan and signed with the Red Wings after a solid 3 years in college. He was a Calder candidate in his rookie season with Detroit, but he's also one of the most disliked Red Wings in recent memory. If you ask most people who their least favorite player was since the Red Wings started rebuilding, DeKeyser would probably be mentioned a few times. So what are the two sides of Danny DeKeyser, and why is he such a polarizing figure in Red Wings hockey? Like I said before, DeKeyser is a hometown kid, Detroit born and raised. This will always make you an immediate favorite if you play for the Red Wings, obviously. And DeKeyser was considered a good player for a while. In his rookie season, he was seen as one of the best young defensemen in hockey. And in 2016, he earned himself a 6-year, $30 million contract extension. Even though Ken Holland was going crazy at that time, handing out those kind of deals to basically anybody, it still shows how his value was seen in the eyes of the Red Wings at the time. But now we get to the other side of Danny DeKeyser, because as the Red Wings declined, so did he. Really, what seemed to hurt him the most was a back injury that required surgery in 2019. And from 2019 to 2022, DeKeyser would turn into a player people dreaded seeing in the lineup. He had clearly lost a step or two after his surgery, and it only got worse as he got older. His mobility was limited a lot due to injuries, he couldn't get into good defensive positioning as fast as he once could, and the word traffic cone was soon synonymous with Danny DeKeyser. After his albatross of a contract ran out, DeKeyser was unsurprisingly not brought back by the Red Wings. You would have thought being paired with Moritz Seider would have helped DeKeyser, but in the end it did not. And then, after the Red Wings didn't bring him back, DeKeyser spent time with the Canucks and Maple Leafs, but never made an NHL roster. Now, you might be wondering, why is this seen as such an unfortunate thing? It sounds like Danny DeKeyser had a regular rise and fall, like any other player. Well, the problem with DeKeyser is, you really want to hate on him after seeing him play terrible, but he is just way too likable off the ice to hate on him. DeKeyser off the ice is known for his likability. Last year he did the in-stadium broadcast at Little Caesars Arena, and this year he's a part-time analyst for Bally Sports Detroit. So he clearly has charisma and a great personality. He's a really likable guy when you forget how bad he was on the ice those last few years. You couldn't even get that excited when the Red Wings finally waived him because they waived him on his birthday. I mean, maybe I'm just too nice, but for me, it is incredibly hard to genuinely dislike Danny DeKeyser. He was a solid defenseman until he got hurt, and even after that, he still looked like he was giving a lot of effort, but the skills just weren't there. And during those final years, being paired with Moritz Seider, a guy who everyone was always watching and still is always watching whenever he's on the ice, does not help you a whole lot because every mistake you make is going to be amplified. But despite that, Danny DeKeyser was still an assistant captain and his teammates seemed to like him. Usually a guy that is consistently playing at a below average level wouldn't have the A on his jersey. But DeKeyser was such a big influence on guys off the ice and was such a good leader that he earned it. Like I said before, you want to dislike the guy when he messed up, but you just couldn't. He had been there when the Red Wings were still trying to hold the dynasty together, and he did his job well back in the early to mid 2010s. He brought youthfulness to a group that needed it, and he played well. He then stuck it out through the worst years of the rebuild, and was personally going through a lot of injury issues. And sadly, by the time the Red Wings were finally back to making a playoff push, DeKeyser was just not playing at a level where you could justify keeping him on the team. So he had to be let go from the only team he knew. The same team that he grew up watching. And he was never able to make another NHL roster after. But now he is back with the Red Wings as a broadcaster. I hope good things for Danny DeKeyser in the future. While I didn't necessarily enjoy watching him play, he's still a really good dude who seems like a hard worker. I think he can legitimately carve out a career in broadcasting if he continues to improve, because he does have that charisma and that personality that really fits him as an analyst. But like I said before, it was kind of irritating because when you wanted to hate him, you just couldn't, because you realized how nice of a guy he was in real life, and you felt like you could not say this stuff to his face. Like me personally, when I say bad things about an athlete and stuff like that, I only say it if I'm also willing to say that same thing to their face. And I just am not willing to say terrible things to Danny DeKeyser's face because he seems like such a likable guy and he's just such a nice dude. And he does stuff in the community in Detroit. He hosts youth camps. Again, he does the broadcasts. He just seems like a pretty nice dude who just wants to do good things. And even when he was struggling, he seemed like he felt really bad about it. Like he knew that he was not playing up to a level that he was supposed to be playing at. So even when you wanted to hate on him, you just couldn't. And that's why Danny DeKeyser is such a polarizing player, because on one hand you like him, and on the other hand you really don't. But you can't dislike him for too long, because then you realize he's a really nice guy. I'm Limitless Polls. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.